I just need to do my shade.
From Texas, a man of the wild, thrown into combat where bodies lie piled. Hides his emotions, his blood running cold. Just like his victories, his story unfolds. Right, are I blind? If there be any glory in war, let it rest on them like hell. The throne of Nazio, where no soldiers sleep and where hell 6 feet deep. The deathless weight, there's no debate. So charge and attack, going to hell and back. A man of the 15th, a man of can-do. Friends fall around him, and yet he came through. Let them fall face down if they must die. Making it easier to say goodbye. Right, are I blind? If there be any glory in war, let it rest on them like hell. Who went to hell and came back? Cross the throne of Nazio, where no soldiers sleep and where hell 6 feet deep. The deathless weight, there's no debate. And attack, going to hell and back. Go gather round me and listen while I speak. La la, where hell is 6 feet deep. And all along the shore, where cannons still roar. They're haunting my grief that's still there when I sleep.
All right, good morning, everybody. How is everybody doing today? It is July 1st. We're opening up with Sabaton's To Hell and Back in a preemptory July 4th celebration. That song is, of course, about the one and only Audie Murphy, the little man from Kingston, Texas, the short king. Yes, Sabaton, of course, being the perfect band to sing a patriotic American song, being from Sweden and all, but they sing about history and the great men of history, and I thought it was fitting. And also, I like how we had a song about a guy from Texas. Let's put in a bunch of, Jews, harps, and whistling, because that's what Texas is all about, right? Boing, boing, and whistling. But I digress. Anyway, how's everybody doing right now? I'm just going to close my eyes for a second and remember the past glories this country had. And now to the hellscape. So, in the news... Well, actually, before we get to the news, let me talk to you about my wonderful domestic bliss. I am here, of course, on Saturday. My beautiful wife, Daphne, is with me. She made me a lovely breakfast. And yeah, all is well. All is well. And you should all get on this situation. Nothing like waking up to your lovely wife and a nice breakfast in the morning. And now we go to the hellscape. Speaking of, okay, so we got some comments here. Biff and Rick are talking about Audie Murphy. Yes, that is what the song was about. C Punk Messiah says he's low energy going off caffeine today. Well, as long as it's not permanent low energy, like Donald Trump said about Jeb Bush. That's some serious low energy. And then we have Pony Throat, who's mentioning the major chimp out going on in France. Yes, we're going to get to that in a little while. But first, we have to stick with bad news domestic before we go to bad news abroad. So anyway, two senators, Lindsey Graham and Dick Blumenthal, American senators, they convened a press conference on Monday in which they, meaning NATO, which of course actually refers to the United States since we pay about 80% of NATO's budget, they explicitly threatened a war against Russia in the event of any action that results in the dispersal of radioactive contaminants. Fair enough legislation, I suppose, but I don't care for the language they used. They will be destroyed. They will be eviscerated. Yes, that talk is not at all belligerent and like the General and Dr. Strangelove, Ms. Lindsay. Last month, this same dynamic duo shepherded through the Senate a resolution calling on the Biden administration to formally designate Russia a state sponsor of terrorism. And the vote was 100% unanimous from all senators, Republicans, Democrats, and independents such as they are across the board. Am I the only one who wants to voice a little bit of a concern about NATO possibly expanding right up to Russia's borders? Might that be, to some small degree, a cause of the Russian belligerence? Okay, got some comments here. Ponythroat says, go to war with Russia because somebody broke a smoke alarm. I don't know what that's referring to. I mean, obviously there's the chirping smoke alarm, which seems to be in a lot of TikTok videos. It also might refer to the smoke that's coming across the Canadian border into the United States and is actually causing air alerts right now as we speak in New Jersey. I don't know. But yeah, I can't help but feel that to some small extent, NATO, which in 1991 went to Germany, being pushed all the way up to Poland now and probably going to include Ukraine, that might be, to some small degree, a cause of Russia acting like a bunch of jackasses, which I certainly don't approve of. But there I go again, suggesting diplomacy against the nation with the largest nuclear arsenal on the planet, that being Russia. I mean, I'm sure a few of those nukes got sold off during the fall of the Soviet Union, but they still got more than us. What foolishness. Oh boy, there's nothing I hate more than a closet case like Lindsey Graham trying to act tough. And yeah, I'm sorry, maybe it's immature, but that man looks incredibly gay. But hey, the adults are back in charge, Biden? Rational adults refer to eviscerating people that technically aren't their enemies yet. General Ripper was the good guy in Dr. Strangelove, right? Gotta protect those precious bodily fluids. And yes, in case you're wondering, when I do my presentations, I'm at a science museum working now, and one of the, we do like little science experiments, and one of them is about water filtration. And yes, I do reference General Ripper's precious bodily fluids when I talk to the children about why water filtration is important. Nobody gets it, except for the parents. C-Punk Messiah says, here in Meatskin, Michigan, we've been getting a lot of smoke. Yes, we here in New Jersey, the New York area also gets a lot of smoke. Ponythroat says, I was referring to the fact that smoke alarms contain a small amount of radioactive isotope called americium-241. Yes, that must have been one of the periodic table elements that was discovered by American scientists. I believe there's like one entire row that was discovered by American scientists. Of course, the Russians have more than a few themselves. Let me look that up right now. Okay, let's see. Okay, so yeah, on the periodic table, the UK leads with 24, then the United States with 21, then Russia has 9, and then yeah, it's pretty much all European countries. Yeah, the bottom row there, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, all the way to 103 is American, and then 104, 105, 106, 113, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and also 85. I genuinely don't understand why we don't celebrate our scientists more in this country. I mean, it seems like something we could genuinely be proud of instead of all this dick waving, nonsense where Lindsey Graham gets to pretend that he's a real man. Tony Gilbert says, "How's it going today, Larsen? Weed is legal here, so it's awesome. You're in Maryland, right? Well, that's good. Congratulations." Somebody was smoking a couple doobies last night, like next door to my apartment. Pony Throat says, "Water filtration is important. Alex Jones tried to warn you." Yes, that great prophet, Alex Jones. We should all listen to him. He's not an irrational man, Alex Jones. He's just concerned with the goddamn chemicals in the water that are making the frogs turn gay. Yeah, I'm sick of this shit. Now, that's something I can't reference in my little science lectures, no matter how badly I want to. Stanley Kubrick films, that's okay to reference. Alex Jones, I would get fired very quickly. I would again like to remind everybody that we could have genuinely aided Russia, going back to serious issues now, we could have genuinely aided Russia into being a real democracy after 1991. That, I think, is one of our biggest failures. They genuinely did extend the hand of friendship to us after the Cold War, and we smacked them down for no reason other than petty spite. And the debacle of the Yeltsin years probably led to Putin coming into power. So while I don't make any excuses for Russian aggression, America certainly did not help matters much. Now, as for why we didn't become friends with Russia after the Cold War, well, that's a matter of debate. I mean, could it be that a lot of our governmental people are these kind of old Cold Warriors who are still clinging to anti-Russian animus? Perhaps. Could it also be that, I'm getting a little edgy here, could it also be that some of our other government types, they have much deeper seated ethnic animus against Russia? Perhaps, for somewhat justifiable reasons. Cough, cough. Oh, somebody, I heard Mark Wahlberg, so Tony Gilbert gave me $2 for the barbaric gentleman. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And I will pass the duchy. I don't know all these slang terms for the wacky tobacco. I guess duchy's one. Down in Baltimore. Yes, once again, going back to the Russia thing, I would like to suggest that every one of those senators ought to be the first to be sent into frontline combat infantry in the event that World War III pops off. But of course they won't. The fundamental problem with modern society is that people don't suffer the consequences of their actions. It's just like training a dog. If you don't immediately punish somebody for their failures, they don't learn. My beautiful wife agrees with me, and I do love her very much, even though last night I tried to have her play River City Ransom with me, and she didn't care for it. I don't understand how anybody could not like River City Ransom. I mean, I like that game so much that my I got money little widget that pops up is a modified sprite from that game. Can we, everybody in the chat, please tell my wife that River City Ransom is a goddamn masterpiece. I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Biff Slamkovich says we turned our backs on Stalin when Germany attacked in World War II. What do you expect? I mean, I know he wanted us to open up a second front in Europe immediately, but we came the long way instead. I mean, you can debate whether or not that was the right thing or not. Okay. Tony Gilbert says, Larsen, you said Baltimore like we do. Good job. Yes, I've known some people from Maryland. C Punk Messiah says peace is not profitable. Yeah, unfortunately, yes, it's not. But I think there's plenty of conflicts in the world you can sell your weapons to. You don't have to create new ones. Pony Throat, referring to the Wagner coup, says 30,000 trained and armed soldiers roll up and the Kremlin's like, go home. Somebody dumps ass on Pelosi's desk and nicks over a bin, and the USA is like, straight to gulag. Yes, the January 6th coup attempt, wink, wink. My wife says, I like River City Ransom, I just don't like playing on the PC. And as I promised, I will get you one of those USB controllers you can plug in. Tony Gilbert says, River City Ransom is great. I had a ROM that put Blade in it, so it's awesome. Yes, ROM hacking is a lot of fun. Ponythroat says, River City Ransom is decent. It's not the best beat-em-up in the world by any means. I don't know. I think it might actually be one of the best beat-em-ups. I mean, Double Dragon Neon's good. There's a lot of good side-scrolling beat-em-ups, and we're not counting the licensed ones that Konami was, whipping ass on, like the Simpsons one and the Asterix one. There's a lot of good licensed ones in the 90s. Tony Gilbert says, we were neutral at the beginning of World War II, so we couldn't stop the Red Menace. Indeed, people forget that the United States was not really a major power in the beginning of World War II. Like, our standing army was smaller than Romania's. I think it was, like, not even in the top 20 in the world. So, you're in a bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation here, where if America stays neutral, people bitch and moan, and if we get involved, people bitch and moan. So I say, why don't we not get involved unless we get attacked? Because therefore, they'll still bitch and moan, but we save money. Hey, Tony Gilbert says, we were neutral at the beginning of World War II, so couldn't stop the Red Menace. Yes. Hey, Tony Gilbert says, if you're a traitor, you need to be hung, period. Yeah, but I mean, the definition of treason's a little, sometimes it's a little vague. I'm getting a text for something. Let's see. Okay, my lovely wife likes something I said. Good. Tony Gilbert says, my favorite beat-em-up is the Scott Pilgrim game for 360. I'm sure it's a good game. I didn't really care for Scott Pilgrim just on like a philosophical level, to be honest. Something about Michael Cera, I just don't like his face. Like, I can't watch things that he's in because his face just upsets me. I know it's stupid, like a completely absurd reason to not like somebody, but just something about him, like, I don't like looking at that man. Tony Gilbert says the Nazis and the Russians had a treaty. Yes, they did. People forget that they teamed up to, spit roast Poland in 1939, but nobody remembers that. All the tankies are like, communists killed fascism. Communism was in bed with fascism until Hitler double-crossed them. Okay, moving on from the Russia thing, but also in American news, going from foreign to domestic issues, the Supreme Court officially rules against racially based affirmative action for college admissions. Seems like a good idea, I suppose, the whole idea of judging on pure merit, but don't celebrate just yet, because considering that the trend in schooling is turning against things like, grading and testing and tracking, and all those things are being turned against in the schools, I'm sure they'll find loopholes to get past this and shoehorn people who don't deserve to go to school into the schools. Needless to say, quite a few people are upset at this, and not just Judge Ketanji Brown. So says Erica Marsh, a blonde lady who's a blue check on Twitter, so she's probably very important. And this is a direct quote, mind you. Today's Supreme Court decision is a direct attack on black people. No black person can succeed in a merit-based system. This is why we need affirmative action programs. Wow, such a blatant display of white savior racism. I'm tempted to think this might be a joke, but I'm honestly not sure. Some people are saying that Twitter account is an elaborate troll job, but this does basically encapsulate how people like this think. I mean, we've all seen the videos of, like, far leftists literally thinking that black people are too dumb to get IDs, and therefore doing voter ID check in America is racist. It's just like Jim Crow. Or for that matter, the fact that they're no longer grading schoolwork because black people might do worse than white people. Okay. Ponythroat says, Scott Pilgrim, fighting men for the most used of used goods. Yes, that's my issue with Scott Pilgrim, besides Michael Cera's stupid face. It's fundamentally like this guy's fighting like these trials against boyfriends for some used up piece of ass. Don't look at me like that, baby. Like, come on. Was Ramona Flowers, did she really deserve that much effort? Hold on 1 second. It was a joke. Okay, Tony Gilbert says he doesn't like the Supreme Court. Yes, I also dislike the Supreme Court, just in general, considering it's basically the only branch of the government that has any real power. They can just legislate at will. The position should not be for life, and Congress needs term limits. Yes, I agree. Stop the lobbying and the gerrymandering. Yes, I agree. Normally, I do say like we should emulate the French and riot a little bit to get the government to do what we want, but we'll get to that in a little while. Tony Gilbert says, referring to Ramona Flowers, yeah, they kind of ran a train on her. Yes, they did. Rick says, I like how your secret fan, Count Dankula, put on his Supreme Court justice persona. You know, I might have to send a DM to Count Dankula if he is my fan, because I could get like a major boost to the channel if, in the odd event that he is my fan. Tony Gilbert says Ramona Flowers had 7 dudes and a girl. Yes, again, I don't want to keep reiterating this, but I really don't care for Scott Pilgrim all that much. I mean, it's just, philosophically, I disagree with it. I hate that whole kind of twee, like, retro-exploitation shtick, which is ironic considering I was just talking about River City Ransom. I don't like the idea of, like, fighting that hard for a woman who doesn't deserve it. And, Michael Cera's weird, like, I don't, like, kind of doggy face. Like, it's just, he looks like a sad puppy dog. I don't know how to describe it. It's just something about his face I just don't like. I can't watch anything he's in. I mean, I even like Arrested Development, which I do like. I was just kind of cringing whenever he was on. I'm just like, get your stupid face off the camera, Mike. Ponythroat says, the only thing the French riots are demanding is a free pair of Nikes. Yeah, they're demanding a lot of that. They always steal the ugly shoes. Yes, they sure do. Biff Slankovich says, William Painter, consultant for Robertson Kavanaugh, bemoans the Supreme Court. He demands an inspector general. The major donor to the Supreme Court has the name Amicus Curiae on the bow of his boat. I'm going to admit I don't know what that means. I'm not a lawyer. Oh, impartial advisor. Yes, that might be good. We could use Inspector Generals. We could also use Spectre General, the band who sung those songs for the original Transformers movie. Okay. Tony Gilbert says, my state is notorious for gerrymandering. To the Supreme Court had to tell them all to redraw the map. They shoved all the minorities into one county. LOL. C-Punk Messiah says, the Virgin Scott Pilgrim versus the Chad Kenshiro. There's plenty of guys who fight for women much more nobly than Scott Pilgrim. Ponythroat says, every pony knows Scott Pilgrim ruined an entire generation of women. Ruined men, too, to be honest. Tony Gilbert and Genghis Tom agree that Michael Cera just looks like he has a very punchable face. Like, there's nothing... I'm sure he's a nice person. I mean, I've never heard really anybody say anything bad about him. It's just something about his face I don't like. Dave Slankovich says, Amicus Curiae means friend of the court. The major donor is a personally signed copy of Mein Kampf. I don't know if you're joking, sir. Tony Gilbert says, Adam Driver has a punchable face, too. Little bit. The thing with Adam Driver is, I saw a meme, it was like, Adam Driver looks like a caricaturist tried to draw Keanu Reeves from memory. That's kind of what he looks like. All right, let's see. What else we got going on here? So, yeah, let's see what happens with this Supreme Court decision. Also worth noting is that it has also been ruled that Christian web designers no longer need to design websites for the gays. And, in theory, I support the freedom of association, and yes, I absolutely think that gay people should be able to refuse to design anything for Christians. I think that's fair. And why would a gay dude even want somebody who doesn't like him to design a website for him? I mean, there's plenty of people willing to design your website because that's where the money is. So let close-minded assholes do their own thing. By the way, I love how like the basic progressive assumption is that all people are just naturally evil and discriminatory unless they have massive state engines of power forcing them to be otherwise. In the immortal words of Bart Simpson, really makes you think. Okay, Tony Gilbert has a question for me, and he also says the 65 movie he did was great, though. I don't know what movie you're referring to. Again, referring to Michael Cera, like, I'm sure he's a nice person, and, I don't even think he's a bad actor. It's just, I don't like his face. It's stupid, and it's childish, but that's what I feel. While I wait... Okay, Tony Gilbert asked, do you think you could beat that YouTuber? That guy is trying to box. Who do you mean, Charlie Zelenoff? Yeah, I could kick Charlie Zelenoff's ass. If that's who you're referring to. Now, I will say that I would have a much easier time of it if it was MMA rules, not boxing rules. Because, I'm going to be honest with you, my hands are probably my least good skill set in the fisticuffing arts. So, he might go the distance if we boxed, to be honest. I'm not a great boxer. But yeah, in MMA, I would hand him his ass. Unless you're referring to somebody else, in which case I'm not sure. I mean, as far as I'm aware, the only fight Charlie Zelenoff ever won was against the pizza delivery man that he just sucker punched for no reason. And as somebody who used to be a pizza delivery man, I get a bit angry when I see delivery boys getting punched. Tony Gilbert says, not Charlie Z, the guy I can't think of. He's a really big YouTuber, KSI. I barely know who that is. I'm going to look him up. Okay, let's see. KSI boxing, let's see. Let's look this up right now. Okay, let's see. He's throwing some hands. All right, so he's got his hands down a lot of the time. Doesn't look like a particularly great boxer. I mean, yeah, I'd be willing to get in the ring with him. But would he bother fighting a guy with 5,000 subscribers? I don't know. Okay, let's see. Pony Throats asks, is it Boogie and Wings of Redemption? I don't know. There's so many, like, slapdick YouTubers fighting. I don't know who's fighting. Okay. Biff Slankovich says Harlan Crow has a signed copy of Mein Kampf and one with Monet and Renoir. The boy's loaded. Well, with that being said, it might just be a historical curiosity. I don't know if we can posit his political leanings because of that. Tony Gilbert says, I used to be a wrestler, and I'm a jiu-jitsu-ka. Although I have trained a little kickboxing. So, yeah, I'm going to be honest. I would try to fight MMA rules if I was going to fight anybody, since I'm not a great boxer by any means. Okay. Pony Throat says, could you beat Thomas Daw? Yes, I could. Sipang Messiah says, Ashita Kim could beat Thomas Daw. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Ashita Kim's skills are basically like green belt taekwondo level. Tony Gilbert says you only have 5K subs. WTF. Yeah, I know. I should have all the subs. That way I wouldn't have to work. But I digress. Anyway, let's go back to the news. Yeah, with regards to the Supreme Court thing, these things appear to be slight improvements, but will they actually affect things? Will the education system improve? Will freedom of association exist for all Americans? Will they just be meaningless, placating gestures? We shall see. But speaking of failures of association and also race-based insanity, not the French one, but still in America, we'll get to France in a little while, something happened the other day that just encapsulates, like, I have to call it the shit-lib attitude. even more so than the aforementioned Erica Marsh's soft bigotry of low expectations. So what happened was, there was a story I saw on YouTube. There was a white man being attacked by a knife-wielding black man in his yard, or at the very least, he was being threatened by him. I don't know exactly what happened, but yes, there was a knife-wielding black man in his yard. The white man called the cops. The cops arrested the black man. The cops, several of whom were black from what I could see. And then, I shit you not, the white man started breaking down into tears from the guilt of getting a black man arrested. Like, he was like, no, I didn't want him arrested. I just wanted to leave us alone. Why are you arresting him? Just because you pulled a knife on me? It's only a crime if it's a gun. At this point, he starts openly weeping like a little girl, and he's like, he's going to go to prison. I don't want that. He's black and I'm white. A blue, blue, blue. Are you fucking serious, sir? A man was threatening you and your family with a knife, and you're like simping for him? If you want to get a dictionary definition of a little bitch, L-I-L apostrophe bitch, this is it right here. Oh, and by the way, where did this happen, you might be asking yourself? Did it happen in Portland, Manhattan, Boston, San Francisco, any of the other strongholds of American neo-Puritan liberalism? No. DeKalb County, a suburb of Atlanta, Georgia. Georgia! Yeah, right in the middle of the old Confederacy, we have a sniveling, Prague white shitlib bending over for a black violent criminal. No, don't take him to jail. Take me instead. He needs someplace to bury his cock in prison. Okay. Can we just officially admit that, whatever past sins of racism America committed, and I'm certainly not denying those, can we just admit that they've been fully atoned for and repented for? I mean, if a white man in the middle of the red hills of Georgia is basically falling to his knees, begging the police to not persecute the poor, innocent, black, violent criminal, I think it's fair to say that racism, or anti-black racism at the least, is truly good and dead in America. Like, my mind boggles at the sheer dickless behavior. I'm sorry. As a man who now has a family in the technical sense of the term, I cannot even begin to tell you how angry the story made me. Like, what kind of a man are you where you stick up for a violent criminal attacking your family before you stick up for your family? And I say this as somebody who has advocated for substantial amounts of prison reform. Like, violent offenders need to be dealt with harshly. Pretty much all non-violent crimes can be dealt with fines, house arrest, rehab, or community service, or public flogging. But violent crimes ought to be dealt with severely. Those people need to be separated from decent society. All right, let's look up some comments here. Let's see. Okay, Biff Stankovic says, one of my fellow teachers, Doc Long, the father of actress Nia Long, was a big boxing fan. He wanted to train me to fight the Klitschkos. That's not happening. Yes, let's not fight professional fighters. Okay. Tony Gilbert says, Ashita Kim was weird. Can you make another Frank Dukes video? Well, I think I've said everything that needs to be said about Frank Dukes, to be honest. I mean, I'll give you a little spoiler. I do have another video about Count Dante coming up because I've found some new information on him. Ponythroat says, Jared Genesis versus Jared Fogle. Yes. I think Jared Genesis might win that. I mean, Jared Genesis probably got a lot of practice getting his ass handed to him by the Green Power Ranger, which actually did happen. Okay, we got some comments about this DeKalb County thing. Tony Gilbert asks, why would he attack him? Why would he cry? What the fuck? Well, it's because he was so distraught at the thought that he would put a black man in prison that he openly fell to his knees begging the police to take him instead. Tony Gilbert says, anti-black racism will always exist. It's what the country was built on. Well, yeah, I mean, to an extent. But again, I think you can say that there's something of a sea change that happens when, you've got a man in the middle of the Confederacy, like, begging the police to not arrest a violent criminal who happens to be black. I think it's a bit absurd to say, like, there's been no change at all since the days of Jim Crow. Tony Gilbert says Atlanta's kind of bad, but at least they still have money. Baltimore's like a broke Atlanta. I went to Baltimore once when I was a little kid. I don't remember much of it. The area around Johns Hopkins is pretty nice. Biff Slankovich says there's a nice animated video on education. Thank you, sir. C-Punk Messiah says low emotional intelligence. White guilt is a hell of a drug. Yes, it is. And we'll get to that in a little bit, but I got to get some coffee. My beautiful wife is going to get me coffee instead. Thank you, darling. Anyway, all right, we got a lot of people coming in. That's good. So, yeah, we're going to leave America for now, and we're going to go overseas to some international news. All this talk of, bad race relations in America, surely our cultural betters in Europe have much more sensible race relations. Or do they? No, they don't. In France, there have been days and days, 4 days so far, of rioting, looting, bank robbery, arson, and now legitimate automatic weapons fire. I've seen videos of the urban youth firing Kalashnikovs. Why? Over an Algerian teenager, a 17-year-old, who stole a car, tried to run over some cops, and he was shot. I will admit, I don't know exactly what happened in the case. I think it was something like that. But, much like in America, when people get shot by cops, they're usually up to no good. Now, I've gone on record, including in this stream, saying that we should emulate nos frères, our brothers. I don't speak a word of French, by rioting every now and then. Yes, we should riot every now and then for sensible reasons to get the government to work for us. But this is not quite what I meant. And again, we used to violently go against the government for labor rights and things as recently as like the 1920s, or hell, technically even like the 1970s. There was still massive protests like down south in like West Virginia, the coal mining country, but I digress. But yeah, this riot, it's not quite what I meant. And by that I mean very few of the rioters seem to be ethnically French, or am I not allowed to notice that? Cities all across France look like war zones, and the police have been taxed to the limit, trying to keep things under control. In some cases, they're even bringing in the military. Worth pointing out for delicious irony is that a primary school in Paris, named after Angela Davis, was burnt down by almost entirely black and brown rioters. If you'll allow me to indulge in the irony, I shall. Of course, Europeans in general tend to be, or were until very recently, extremely quick to smugly lecture America about how evil and racist they are, as illustrated by the fact that Angela Davis has a goddamn elementary school named after her. Yeah, hone, we're going to invite in millions of hostile third worlders and we'll integrate them successfully. We'll show America how to do it. Yeah, how's that working out for you guys? Oh, and of course, they're going to blame America for the riots, too. Because, not even 5 years ago, they were whining about how evil and bigoted and reactionary America was. But now, it's like, oh, you're exporting these anti-white grievance ideologies to us. Le wokisme. You're ruining our traditional culture. With all due respect, fuck off, okay? I've said it before and I'll say it again. America cannot be both evil reactionary right-wingers, but also extreme radical left-wingers. If you don't like America, that's fine. Pick one reason and stick with it, please. Okay. Let's see. We got some comments here. Rick says, did the apologizing man think he was a Victor Hugo protagonist? Not sure which one you're referring to. I'm just going to assume Jean Valjean. Not as well read in Victor Hugo as I should be. And by that, I mean I've literally read 3 of his stories, Notre Dame de Paris, Les Miserables, and The Man Who Laughs. And it's not Quasimodo, and it's not Gwynplaine who was like that. So I'm going to have to assume JVJ. Ponythroat says Algerian George Floyd. Well, I think he might actually be worse because the kid literally stole a car and tried to run over some cops. And for the record, I don't think the George Floyd thing was handled well at all. I mean, as a jiu-jitsu man myself, I would never kneel and put my weight on somebody's neck. Nor do I think George Floyd deserved a state funeral, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, let's see. Moving on. Well, actually, we're going to stick with the France thing. But yeah, like I said, it is your right to dislike America. There's much I dislike about America as well. But it has to be logically consistent. You can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. Like, pick one reason and stick with it. I'll stick with the le wokisme personally. And by the way, I should point out that all of le wokisme is basically just derivations of Jean-Paul Sartre and Michel Foucault. And by that I mean literally several of the mediocre, race-based intellectuals we have nowadays basically say they were big Michel Foucault fans and the other French postmodernists. I'm eagerly awaiting an apology from Europe for being blamed for everything. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. And in case, you remember I did it many months ago, I mentioned the director of Amelia literally just saying, I will never direct a sequel to Amelia. Paris sucks now. Yeah, that's, there's no more concertinas and, candlelight dinners anymore, people. Just, it's a lot of this shit. Okay. I would check more on what's going on, but apparently Twitter's going through a bit of a shit fit. It's saying that I'm rate limited, and apparently thousands of other people are. But anyway, referring to France, a letter signed by 1,000 active duty soldiers and 20 retired generals has been issued, warning that a civil war is brewing. I think that's a bit extreme, but yeah, it's not good. I have seen videos of, French men in various neighborhoods arming themselves with blunt objects and fighting back against the rioters, and I approve. Yes, surely there are Gallic gentlemen who still got some fight in them. I like that. Okay, moving on. Let's see. But yeah, we're going to stay in Europe for a little bit. Unfortunately, I'm rate limited, but I do remember the story. In the Netherlands, there was a bit of a boo-boo that happened where a mentally challenged man from Suriname was accidentally chosen 500 times to be a sperm donor in various fertility clinics all across the Netherlands. Yeah, that's basically Europe in a nutshell nowadays, isn't it? Need I say more? Okay, moving on. And actually, if I can get Twitter to unfuck itself, which I can't. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if my phone will not be rate limited. Talk amongst yourselves while I finagle my technicals. Let's see. What we got here? Okay, let's see. Oh, come on, Twitter, don't... Don't jerk me around, Twitter. Okay, yes, here we go. I got it. Yes, by accident, 500 women were impregnated by a mentally challenged man from Suriname. I don't know why anybody would allow a mentally challenged man to donate, like, sperm at all, to be quite honest. A reply in the tweet thread. It's literally the scene from Young Frankenstein where he chooses Abby Normal's brain, and it happened 500 times. Yep. Okay. 23rd says, have guests over. Should I will probably depart soon. There have been no comments. That's okay. See what else we got going on in the wonderful world of insanity that we currently reside in. Let's see. Opening up Gmail. All right, so let's Pony Throat ask, what is the average IQ of Suriname? Let's look it up, shall we? Okay, that website is not available. Oh, stupid ad block. Yeah, you're going to pause on this website. Okay. If I knew where Suriname was exactly, for God's sake. Oh, I'm sure there's just a list. Suriname's average IQ is 90.3, so it's not that bad, all things considered. Tony Gilbert says they don't vet donors over there. Wow. Okay, yeah, I mean, I actually applied to be a sperm donor, and, like, they vetted me. That was years ago. Suriname's in South America. Anyway, yeah, we're going to stick with international news for a bit, and we're actually going to visit the homeland of my beautiful wife. We're going to deal with South African news, and in particular, we're going to deal with the massive amounts of load shedding, which is basically a nice way to say the power's shitting out. Shit sucks, yo. Yeah, Eskom sucks. It really, really sucks. I can't get the link, unfortunately, because of Twitter is, screwing itself. But let me see if I can look it up elsewhere. Let's. Damn it, Twitter! This is not the time to stop working. But yeah, anyway, shit sucks. Eskom sucks. Several electrical engineers have literally said, "Just let us fix it. We'll do it for free." But those guys were white, so they're like, "No, fuck you." Also, yeah, that happened. Yes, my wife nods in agreement. And also, for reasons which may or may not be related, there's also massive cockroaches, massive cockroach infestations. The cockroaches themselves are not particularly large, but there's lots of them. Also in the Cape Colony. I mean, it's yeah. Say what you will about America, at least the power works for the time being. Hey. Pointyfoot says that's a lot of retarded Navy. Now, yes, I see Navy seamen. It's pretty clever. Punk Messiah says, me and my artist friends are waiting for the full collapse of Twitter. Only bad thing would be the loss of that unhinged Quest 64 meme account. I had no idea that there was a Quest 64 meme account. Like, who the hell is referencing Quest 64 in 2023? Nobody even played that game when it came out in 1996. Except for me, I rented it from Blockbuster, and I was like 5, so I didn't understand, like, I didn't understand, like, the mechanics and stuff. Ponifeld says the feeble mind from Suriname was also doing a lot of load shedding. Yeah, he was shedding a lot of loads, all right. Tony Gilbert says German cockroaches are big and they hiss. Well, I know the German cockroaches fly. I didn't know they hiss. Like, I know the Madagascar ones hiss, and I actually used to handle those when I worked at the zoo. But, yeah, the cockroaches aren't great. I mean, the cockroaches we have in America, like, they're pretty big, but they don't fly, so that's something good. Ponythroat says, I know a sudden influx of Turks came to SA. Yeah, I see what you did there. Okay. Tony Gilbert says, I liked Quest 64. I played it to completion. Yeah, I mean, I might like it now because I'm older. But yeah, I didn't really get what was going on when I was like 5. I didn't really know how like RPGs worked. I didn't really play any like turn-based RPGs until like the first Pokemon came out, and I was a little older when that happened. Despite how archaic it is, I do kind of have a soft spot for turn-based RPGs, but that's neither here nor there. Daphne says nothing quite like having a cockroach in your hair when you open your doors. Uh, yes. But yeah, my regards to South Africa. I hope they fix the electrical thing. I don't know if that's going to happen. My wife is bitterly and sardonically shaking her head. But yeah, electrical power is good. Tony Gilbert says, I'm playing Jet Force Gemini right now. That's a game I actually never got around to playing. It always looked cool. But yeah, I just never got around to playing it. Yeah, during the what do you call it? The lockdown, COVID lockdown, I actually got a lot of like media consumed that I didn't have really have time to before. Like I watched all the Universal Studios horror movies from the 30s, and I played a bunch of old video games never got around to beating. Like I beat the original Suikoden on the PlayStation, and then I beat like Rayman 2: The Great Escape on Nintendo 64, and I beat Goemon's Great Adventure on the Nintendo 64. A lot of good stuff. But yeah, and considering how garbage modern video games are, I mean, there's plenty of good games you can rediscover on the old systems, and I don't think I'll ever need to buy new video again. I mean, the amount of new video I would want to buy is basically I can count on one hand. Like, there's the new Zeldas, and then there's a new No More Heroes, and yeah, it's basically it. I'm not spending like hundreds of dollars for 3 games. It's not my style. I can just admire from afar, but not in the same way that the, mentally ill castration fetishists are now enjoying Zelda, but that's a whole different issue. Anyway, going back to South Africa, Ponythroat says you can't spell cancer without the ANC. That is true. Daphne Halleck says Eskom wins. They will not fix the electrical grid. That's a shame. Ponythroat says, I blame the Boer for not building the infrastructure to last forever. Let's assault farmers' daughters as reparations. Yeah. Fun fact, I was actually, talking to my lady love, and she was like, worst comes to worst, we could just move back to South Africa. And then I thought about it, and I was like, hey, I could achieve my dream of buying a farm. Then I realized, oh, wait, I would probably be brutally murdered if I did. That's not happening. Ponythroat says I can count the amount of good modern games on one hoof. The joke being, of course, that one hoof is one finger. It's actually a fingernail, to be technical. Tony Gilbert asks, was my wife born after apartheid? Yes, she was. Seapunk Messiah says people are dead set on emasculating Nintendo's heroes. I mean, it's not just Nintendo heroes. I mean, they try to read like gay porn nonsense into all things. Like, I mean, they do it with Lord of the Rings. They do it with superheroes. Now they're doing it with Zelda. I'm sorry. I'm keeping the gate. I know gatekeeping is bad, but that gate is going to be kept, damn it. Daphne Alex says you can't blame the Boer. They fought hard for a country that got destroyed. Indeed. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, I guess this is a good time to transition, pardon the pun, since we were talking about the ongoing emasculation of the Legend of Zelda franchise. We can talk about the LGBTQ, because apparently what happened was the LGBs and the TQs have officially split. Let me open that up if I can. Twitter is still borked. Let's see what happens here. Okay. Let's open this bad boy up. Damn it, Twitter. Yeah, so apparently, if I recall the story, which I'm trying to remember from memory since I can't access it, basically the TQs are saying that there's way too many TERFs and cis males and just bad people in the LGBs, and we're splitting off from them. I mean, I don't know if there's like the Pope of Gay Town that like they can like do an official schism. I don't think there is. And of course, I've always said, do what thou wilt with your body, but I just can't help but feel that like the the TQs probably need the LGBs more than the other way around. I mean, the Gs are the only ones who seem to have any artistic talent. So I guess the TQs are just going to keep designing more and more like fractal fuck spiral flags that look like garbage. And yeah, we'll see what happens there. Tony Gilbert says, screw Nintendo for going after the ROMs. Yeah. I mean, I didn't notice. I mean, I'm still downloading ROMs because I refuse to pay for anything. I mean, I've given Nintendo plenty of my money over the years. Seapunk Messiah says, me as a bisexual, I'm sitting back smoking a cigar and watching the queer community implode. Yeah. I have noticed that as well. Tony Gilbert says, I have no clue what you're talking about. You can do whatever they want as long as they don't touch kids or animals. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I'm just saying that, like, the TQs seem to be the more dysfunctional of the group. And they also seem to be the ones who really want to be very intent on hanging around children for some strange reason. And, yeah, well, again, they can do their own thing. We'll see what happens. All right. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm kind of rushing this. Like, I took notes, but I can't access the Twitters, so I'm literally just trying to remember things from memory. Tony Gilbert says, I'm like Eddie Guerrero when it comes to media. I lie, I cheat, and I steal. Indeed. Rest in peace, Eddie. You were a good man. Okay. So, now we're going to come to the title story, if I can open it. Let's hope for the best. Yes, apparently, there was a teenage girl who was getting cyberbullied. It turns out that her mother was the one doing the cyberbullying. I'm going to look this up to see if I can find it. Yeah, we're going to man-made horrors beyond our comprehension. Yes. Oh, yeah, this is the picture. A woman in Michigan faces charges after she allegedly cyberbullied her own daughter. Yeah, she sent hateful and bullying messages to teenage students, including her own daughter, under a fake name and number. Yes, Kendra Lakari faces 5 charges, obstruction of justice and criminal stalking, according to a criminal complaint filed against the mother. Yes, the superintendent of the schools, William Chilman, says we were not expecting it to be a parent. Okay, let's see. So the harassment began in early 2021, according to prosecutors. At the time, she was working as the basketball coach at her daughter's school. Yeah, so she, used like VPNs and things to hide her IP address. Yeah, tens of thousands of messages. She paid bail for $5,000, and yeah, it didn't say like what she was saying. I mean, I'm kind of impressed at how much of a petty asshole you have to be to cyberbully your own daughter and her friends. Again, not all women, but some women, like you just give them a chance to get back to that like catty teenage girl mode, and they'll just go whole hog on it. I don't know why. I mean, for the record, I would stonewall my teenage students when they tried to drag me into their bullshit. Yes, Tony Gilbert says she catfished her own kid. What a sick bitch. I agree. I mean, come on, if you're gonna abuse your kid, at least do it to their face like a goddamn adult. Tony Gilbert says 5K bail. She had to be white. Yes, she was. Okay, Tony Gilbert says Eddie was his favorite, him and Mr. Perfect. Yes. They were both very good wrestlers. Unfortunately, they both couldn't get off the drugs. Well, actually, Eddie did get off the drugs, but the damage was done, and he had a heart attack. Mr. Perfect just snorted that old booger sugar, and it took him out. But yeah, I don't approve of bullying your children, certainly. It's not cool. Okay. Let's see. Let's move on. We have several stories that have to do with dieting and food. Diet and food, I should say. First of all, in New York, there's a ban on pizza ovens that might be happening. Yes, it's not like New York's known for its pizza or anything. I don't. Like, does culture and tradition not mean anything to you damn people? Okay, let's see. Yeah, so the plan was to slice New York pizza oven emissions by 75%. But apparently, they're not actually banning coal and wood fired pizza ovens. It's just a device that would reduce smoke and particulate matter emitted from the pizza ovens. Proper pizza is made in a coal or a wood fired pizza oven. I say as if I haven't made pizza in just regular old gas ovens. Verify This asks, is NYC coming for your pizza? Apparently, no. They're just going to do environmental emissions. So, looks like false alarms. But it does say that if you cannot install emissions controls or reduce your particulate matter, then yes, your pizzeria will be closed down. Again, I would feel that, like, maybe this is something you can make an exception for, considering that, A, I question how much pollution is caused by pizzerias, and B, like, is there not enough cultural cachet that you can, like, not do this? But who cares about culture and tradition anymore? And yes, American pizza is better than Italian pizza. I'm laying that out there right now. Tony Gilbert asks, a ban on pizza ovens, mean the ones that have burned coal for over 100 years? Yes, apparently so. I mean, there are pizzerias in New York that have been around for close to a century. Yeah, I remember for the 100th anniversary one year, they literally, for like the day, they had like, they returned the pizza prices to like what they would have been in 1905. It was like, like a penny a slice, and they sold out pretty quick, but, you know, again, it's tradition, it's culture, it's good. I refuse to, buckle tradition to the whims of, the eco weenies. And I say that as somebody who was a bit of an eco weenie myself. Thought says stealing the catalytic converter off a pizza oven. I'm going to pretend I know anything about electrical engineering and just smile and nod. Okay, catalytic converter is an exhaust emission control. It converts pollutants into... Okay, it catalyzes a reduction oxidation reaction. I do know what that is. Okay. See what else we got going on in the news. Let's see. I can't access it, but I do remember. Apparently, aspartame might be banned because it is a carcinogen. Good. I mean, diet sodas are garbage anyway. But yeah, aspartame in particular, I don't care for. The only soda I drink on the regular is tonic water. Because, I need to up my malaria resistance, of course, because there's so much malaria going on in America, because it's 1910, which is when they drained the swamps down south and they got rid of all that. Hey, Tony Gilbert says Baltimore tried to do that dumb shit to the old businesses, like the oldest blacksmith shop in America. The businesses refused to pay taxes and they backed off. That's good. I mean, that should be like a historic site. Like, I know, like, there's the oldest pub in America that goes back to like the 1600s. That's in Rhode Island, I believe. And there's like some old blacksmith shops in Trenton, New Jersey that are pretty old too, like at least 100 years old. I very briefly apprenticed at one when I was a teenager, but then I quit when he wanted me to pay him, which seems to be counterintuitive to like what apprenticeship is, but never mind that. Tony Gilbert says if you ban aspartame, they won't do shit about the forever chemicals. Yeah, there's a lot of problems with the environment. There's like microplastics in the water. There's aspartame. There's forever chemicals. I mean, again, not to fantasize about what I would do if I was president, but yeah, I would get right on that shit. We used to be a country where teenagers looked like the goddamn Navy SEALs, and I want to go back to those days. But yes, speaking of diet and nutrition, there's a new term for fatties. It's high calorie humans. Because apparently, what happened was there was a incident. I think it was in Canada, where like these two fat women were doing some stupid thing, and like the I'm gonna try to look this up. Hold on. Okay, let's see. Yes, two high calorie humans were wanted for allegedly setting fire to an apartment building in Toronto, Canada. Yes, these women are pretty fat. There's two women. The one in the back looks okay, but yeah, the one in the front looks like she's got this like hump on her back of just like fat. It's not great. I'm gonna put this picture on the stream. Wait, no, it's a WebP. Hold on. All right, well, I guess I won't, but yeah, there's high calorie humans. Is that the new term we're using for fat people nowadays? I'm not fat, I'm high calorie. Like, all right, since like obese and overweight are now slurs allegedly, I guess we're referring to fat people as high calorie people nowadays, like people of girth. Anyway, apparently those women got away. I mean, I don't know how. They don't imagine these women can run pretty fast. Okay. Tony Gilbert says it's a historic site, the Baltimore blacksmith thing. They make metal fences or something. Well, yeah, obviously there's not too many farriers needed in urban Baltimore. Like the one in Trenton I was referring to, they mostly make like fancy furniture and also like fancy barbecue grills, from what I remember. Tony Gilbert said, "Lol, high calorie humans." Much like Scott Steiner said, they're fat. Yeah, again, you all know I really hate like pussy language. Like, just call a spade and call a fatty a fatty. See, I think we're winding this down a little bit. I would have talked more, but you know, let's see what else we got. I had a couple of other little stories about. It was a Twitter thread about comic book art and how garbage it is nowadays, and I would open it and show you if I could, but Twitter is, of course, being a shit ass. I'm going to try to. Yeah, comic book art is garbage nowadays. It's the ongoing drive to make everything look just ugly and lumpy as possible. And this is just, mainstream superhero shit. You think they could afford good artists, but I guess not. The days of Jack Kirby and uh, J. Michael Straczynski and George Perez are long gone. It's just a bunch of lumpy Tumblrites drawing lumpy bullshit for all eternity. Tony Gilbert says there's a horse track in Baltimore and folks who sell fruit by horse, and the Baltimore police use horses, so there are farriers in Baltimore. Huh. Well, that's learn something new every day. Anyway, that does it for my prepared remarks. That last rambling bit about law comic book art bad. So if anybody has anything else to say it now. But Not too much because I do have to go places at noon. So I'm just going to kick back and enjoy some nice coffee, and then we shall see what you have to say. Hey, no comments yet. I'll give you another minute or so. Okay, doesn't look like you people have anything else to say. So, for Larsen Halleck, this has been Larsen Halleck. All of you have a very good day. I will see you actually tomorrow because I got a new video coming.